Excuse me for a second. I actually got lightheaded. A little bit. Not fully, but just a little bit. Also genuinely thirsty. It's still there. I was just waiting for that moment. I was waiting for it. Waiting for when Chizuru would actually get the bloodlust, and it happened. Oh, it happened. I was just sitting there waiting patiently for it. I hadn't considered how much colder the north was. Despite the incoming summer season, the blustery winds were freezing all throughout the night.
もうすぐ夜が明けるし、今日はこの辺で休むことにしようか。思ったより時間かからなかったね。こういう時、羅刹の体って便利だな。
We were only a ways away from the village where I was born, the village of the Yukimura clan.
明日には君のお父さんや南雲薫と再会できるだろうけど、彼らになんて返事をするか決めた？
Well,
その様子だとまだ決めてないんだ。迷う必要なんてなさそうなのに。
Okita.
ん？何？
なんでもない。I wanted to ask him what he had planned to do once he encountered them as well. But first, I had to settle on an answer for Kaoru. Or else, I knew that my feelings won't reach Kaoru.
千鶴ちゃん、ちょっと一緒に来てくれる？
Follow you? Where?
ついてくればわかるよ。ほら。
Hey! Okita quickly grabbed a hold of my hand before walking away through a forested path. Where could he have been taking me? He gave me no chance to object, and he continued his brisk pace down the grassy knoll. What? Okita brought us underneath a canopy that had a dazzling view of the stars scattered across the dusky sky. My cheeks were tingled by the caress of the soft breeze.
今日はよく晴れてるから、君の気分も変えてあげられると思って。昼間の景色もいいけど、こういう眺めも悪くないでしょ。
It was all that Okita said and more. I marveled in awe at the countless stars flickering brilliantly. The wind gently rustled the leaves overhead, allowing each brief glimmering sconce to peek through the tiny holes in the trees. Something so simple became a moment that I could cherish for the rest of my life. Thank you for this, Okita. This is what I needed.
どういたしまして。って、なんか水臭いな。
Okita cackled to himself, and he looked me directly in the eye.
話してごらん。君はどうしたいの？
I still hadn't settled on a decision, but I took a deep breath to gather my thoughts. I don't blame Kaoru for holding on to those feelings of resentment for as long as he has. He lost everything, his home, his family, and his entire clan for nothing, all because of the selfishness of others. He wants to carve a better future for himself. I'm sure if I were Kaoru, I wouldn't be too far off. Kaoru had attempted to manipulate me at so many opportunities, but now I knew the pain that he had resided deeply within him was true. That doesn't mean that I've forgotten how many times he's crossed me, of course. After all, Kaoru is the reason that both Okita and I were suffering the effects of the water of life. But at the end of the day, Kaoru is still my brother. I was unsure if a time would come where I could forgive him for all that he had done to us. But my mind jumped to the horrific thought of having to endure the rest of my life without Okita. I realized that I, too, could become as bitter as Kaoru, cursing and hating everything that had the misfortune of entering my line of sight. Keeping this in mind, I couldn't quite bring myself to condemn Kaoru either, or entirely.
君は彼らと一緒に生きたい?
I hesitated to answer his question. It wasn't as though I never considered it an option. We Furies were unable to live an ordinary life alongside humans. If we were destined to live behind the shadows of mankind, perhaps residing with Kaoru was best. Still, I held on to my reservations. Kaoru is seeking to reclaim some glorious life he has idolized at the expense of many others. That is something I cannot agree with. So if I could maybe convince him to give up on this dream to create this demon-run kingdom.
随分と都合のいい話だね。邪魔者を根絶やしにしてでも自分たちの居場所を作りたいと思ってる彼らが。そんな甘い願いなんて聞き入れてくれると思う?
Well,
世の中にはね、人の醜い部分や汚い部分ばかりを見せつけられながら生きてきた人間っていうのがいるんだよ。そんな相手に甘っちょろい綺麗事なんて通用しないと思うけどね。
Okita was right. I had no rebuttal. These emotions had festered for so long in Kaoru. His entire life was spent working towards exacting his revenge upon the humans to rebuild his clan. Entertaining the idea of putting a halt to his vengeful plans would have been out of the question. Like Okita said, I am naive. During a pause in our conversation, Okita turned back to face the stars.
僕は君の望みを叶えてあげたかったんだ。
え？
だからもし君がどうしてもって言うんなら、少しだけ付き合ってあげようかとも思った。だって君がいてくれなかったら、僕はこうして生きてるかどうかもわからないから。
Okita's eyes thinned, and there was no hint of sarcasm in his voice. He was trying to comfort me. To Okita, it was Kondo-san for whom he had worked his entire life. And now that Kondo-san had been taken from him, I was sure Okita had no real objection to dying at any moment now. The fact he was alive right now must mean...
僕は君が望むものを与えてあげたい。本当に欲しいと思ってるものをね。だから薫の誘いには絶対に乗っちゃダメだ。人間を根絶やしにして自分たちの王国を築くなんて君は望んでないでしょ。
Okita had a knack for articulating my inner thoughts far better than I ever could.
それとも化け物になっちゃったからって何もかも諦めてずっと暗い闇の中で生きていく?
I was speechless. Okita paid no mind as he continued without waiting for me to answer.
そんな生き方君には似合わないよ。君が良くても僕が絶対に許さない。世の中にはね、絶対に暗闇へ落ちちゃいけない人っていうのがいるんだ。
Okita, I didn't want to live the rest of my life as a fury. I didn't want to kill any humans. All I had wanted was a life of peace. Okita helped me remember that that was my dream all along. He saw right through me, sensing that I was beginning to slip away because I had drunk the water of life.
落ち水の毒を消す方法さえ分かれば、君も僕も狂気から解放される。君は君のままだ。化け物なんかじゃない。
Did he just repeated our words back to us from Kyoto. Oh. Was that so much to ask for? To be free of this curse? When Sanan-san was still with the Shinsengumi, he had spent years searching for a cure. In the end, he was unsuccessful. Okita knew this. But against all of the odds, he put his faith in whatever sliver of hope he had.
それでも、もしも君が全て諦めて、願いを放り出すって言うんなら。
Okita reached his hand to me kindly. The soft touch of his finger gave me goosebumps, and he stared back at me affectionately.
僕が君を殺してあげるよ。君が前に進むことまで諦めるつもりなら、どこにも行けないように僕が終わらせてあげる。
By this point, I wasn't sure just how many times Okita had threatened to kill me. But this must have been the first ever time that he said it in such a kind-hearted manner. Knowing that his words came from a well-intentioned place made my heart flutter warmly. Okita.
殺されたくないんなら諦めることなんて考えちゃダメだよ。僕だってその後君なしで生きていけるほど強くはないんだから。僕は最後まで諦めない。だから君も僕と一緒に。
The cadence of his voice was almost nervous. Perhaps Okita had been unsure of what I was feeling, so he gazed deeply into my eyes. Looking at his expression, I wanted to make his wishes come true as well. I won't give up. My forehead burned hotly as if I were coming down with a fever. Tears began to stream from my face, but they hadn't come from anything close to resembling sadness. It was all because Okita felt that I was still worth saving, and that he wouldn't let me fall into darkness. Even if preserving meant that our road ahead wouldn't be a difficult one, it was the road we needed. I want to keep going. With you, Okita. There was no hope in containing myself anymore, and I grabbed a hold of him madly.
ありがとう。君ならきっとそう言ってくれると思ってたよ。
Okita embraced me warmly in return. The sweet sensation of his breath tickled my forehead before he whispered into my ear.
ずっと一緒にいよう。何があってもずっと僕から離れないで。
His hand sweetly grazed the side of my cheek. Oh boy. As if he were nudging me. I timidly shut my eyes in anticipation. He let out a quiet sigh, and he put his tender lips against mine in one calm, confident movement. I could feel his fingers tremble nervously, as if he were touching something so fragile it would crumble at the slightest touch. Okita always had a witty, sarcastic response, opting to let his mouth do the talking, but now there was no words from him, and together we basked in this intimate moment. He had been treating me so dearly. For once in my life, I felt whole, the thought of which nearly brought my tears. Our lips shook slightly, nestled in our passionate kiss. I was sure that the same thoughts running through me were running through Okita as well. Just thinking about how complete he made me feel. It convinced me there was no greater love than ours. My future was his future, ours, together. I pined ever so to continue being by his side, and would do whatever it takes to keep him. I would follow him until the end of time. As these thoughts burned so fiercely inside of me, so too did our kiss intensify, and each breath between our zealous smacking grew more strained and sinuous. As our first kiss came to its end, we hesitantly stepped back from one another. Our footsteps echoed in the emptiness surrounding us, met only with the pleasant whistle of the night wind. However, the silence made me feel a tad uneasy, so I searched for words to break the tension, but as soon as I became conscious of his fingers interlocked with mine, my mind went blank.
名残惜しいけど、ずっとこのままってわけにもいかないんだよね。少し寝た方がいいんだろうけど、目が冴えちゃったな。
Ah. Okita once again turned to gaze longingly at the glittering stars above, and I followed suit. Tomorrow, I would sever my ties with my twin brother, as well as the man whom I had believed to be my father. Could I really do it? Could I stop them?
ねえ、千鶴ちゃん。
As I heard Okita call my name, my chest felt warm, and I looked at him with wide eyes.
そんな不安な顔しなくてもいいよ。気持ちはもう決まってるでしょ。
Well, of course.
君はどう考えてるかわからないけど、僕は戦うのを怖いと思ったことなんて一度もないし、彼らを殺すことへのためらいもない。
I nodded. I had watched Okita's prowess on the battlefield many times before now. Okita was always full of confidence, never letting his hot-headedness get the better of him in a duel.
近藤さんが生きてた頃は目的なんて別にいらなかった。新選組の剣として命じられるままただ目の前の敵を切ればよかっただけだから。だからどんな汚い役目だって堂々と胸を張ってこなせたんだ。でも近藤さんがいなくなった今、僕が剣を振るう理由はたった一つしかない。
And then Okita looked down towards me.
君のためだよ、千鶴ちゃん。
Okita.
こういう生き方を選んだのは僕だし、迷いなんてない。後悔もしない。だけど今までは先を望んだことなんてなかったから。
As he muttered those words softly, I couldn't help but be taken aback by his apathetic confession.
別に生き急いでたわけじゃないし、寂しい生き方をしてたとは思わないんだけど、結局今まで僕は先のことなんて何一つ考えてなかったってことだろうね。
I finally seemed to understand the hesitancy behind Okita's treatment of myself. This conflict within myself, this emerging resolve to fight for me, was an entirely new experience for him. So the battle between us and my family is also the battle to determine a future for ourselves, yes? Which means that defeat is not an option. This is the fight for our right to stay together, forever. Okita silently nodded.
この僕が未来のために戦うことになるなんて思わなかったけどね。今まで思ってもみなかったことが次々と浮かんでくるんだ。
Oops. What do you mean?
例えば、この戦いが終わったらどこで生きていけばいいんだろうとか。
That is a question. He's right. We no longer had a space we could call home. If we were to search for a place to live, could Okita, as a former captain of the Shinsengumi, find a place where he could live reclusively?
そんな顔しなくてもいいじゃない。君を落ち込ませるために言ったんじゃないんだから。
Right. Sorry.
ねえ、千鶴ちゃん。
Okita paused at first, and I sensed his mind working as I gazed into his beautiful emerald eyes. I waited intently for him to continue. But as our eyes connected, suddenly it felt as though time was suspended, and my heart pounded furiously. My cheeks became hot from blushing. Within his irises, I saw myself in a flickering twinkle of green.
どうして目をそらしちゃうの？もしかして警戒してる？
Don't be so mean.
意地悪って言われても、僕はずっと前からこんな感じだったでしょ。でもまあ、どうせ意地悪って言われるんなら、もう一度君に口づけしてもいい？
His remark came from nowhere, and I froze. But, we just kissed.
さっき口づけしたら、もうしちゃいけないの？
Well...
僕が聞きたいのは、君が僕を受け入れてくれるのかくれないのか、それだけなんだけど。
Why can't you just say those words the first time around?
ちゃんと答えて。どっち？
Did I really have to answer his question? I mean, I've always known Okita to be quite free with his sarcasm, but... I said... Oh. Oh. Well, I think there's a time and place for everything.
時と場合？どんな時ならいいの？
Huh? Well... Okita approached closer to me as if my saying yes were a sure deal, and I flinched nervously. Well... I hadn't the faintest clue of how to respond, whereas Okita wore his crooked smirk proudly because of course he fucking would.
そういう姿を見てるとますますいじめたくなるんだよ。
Okita reached his hand out to grab a hold of me by the wrist. No. His sudden movement caught me by surprise.
いいから何も言わないで。
His eyes were fervently locked with mine. I panicked, attempting to step back and free my hands, but Okita would not let go. Okita?
君は本当ならもっと優しくて穏やかな未来を与えてくれる相手を選んだ方が幸せだったのかもね。
I noticed that Okita's voice seemed to drop, and I became a little unnerved as he continued. His eyes no longer seemed to bear within them their typical earnestness, but rather Okita seemed incensed for a reason that I couldn't identify.
千鶴ちゃん、僕はね、きっと君をとても困らせると思う。もし君がいつか僕を選んだことを後悔する日が来たとしても手放してはあげられない。
His playful demeanor had all but vanished. What had surfaced in its stead was Okita's confession that he acknowledged his fear of losing my love. But in spite of his fear, he would keep his resolve to fight.
僕は君が死ぬまで一緒にいてあげることはできないかもしれない。ほんのわずかな未来はあげられてもその先まではわからない。それでも
His quivering mouth tickled the inside of my ear, and I could feel him mad with hot energy.
それでも僕は君を求めるよ。命ある限りこうして君に触れ続ける。君を傷つけることになってもどうしても止められないんだ。
I knew that sharing these sentiments did not come easily to Okita, and he cupped my face tightly. Okita, just as I was going to respond, I was interrupted by the touch of his moist lips. I won't let you say anything. I don't want you to say anything. Through the sensation of his wet, eager mouth, I could gather that this is what he'd wanted to say. Our plump lips smeared against one another, and he pulled at a fistful of my hair, drawing me deeper into him as he bit forcefully into my lower lip. This kiss was different. I could feel it in the rhythm of his muscles, bitter and yet ever so sweet. Hello, Iron Enjoyer. Okita was not afraid of fighting, of dying. Even if our adversaries were members of my own family, he could swing his sword without a second thought. But even so, that he had given it any thought at all, knowing that my well-being could be at risk, meant the world to me. And his kiss had communicated to me all of the subtleties that words could not quite express. After indulging for a moment, brief as it ever was, in the intimacy of each other's lips, there seemed to be something Okita needed answered. So the minute our lips separated, I answered him with a great deal of confidence. I do not mind putting up with anything you might do to me, Okita. I will always forgive you, even knowing that our time together could be a limited one.
そんなこと言って、僕がいなくなったら絶対泣くくせに。
That may be true. But I know at least I won't have any regrets, no matter what happens from here.
そういうの、殺し文句って言うんだよ。
Well, you always said you would kill me, right? Now we're even.
まったく、君って子は。
Okita stroked my hair tenderly, staring back into my eyes longingly, as if this were a fond farewell. Perhaps the thought of our separation had hit him, and he had taken it to heart in this moment. Let's get some sleep soon. We'll need all the rest we can to prepare for tomorrow.
そうだね。
As we lied upon the ground, Okita spooned me, wrapping his arms under mine and nestled into my neck. Even if whatever happened tomorrow proved to be a conclusive end, it was no guarantee of a bright future. However, even keeping this in mind, Okita and I were supporting each other through and through, and we were heading for my village. Even in the face of death, or any hardships conjured under the vengeful eye of my brother, as long as Okita was beside me, I am not afraid of anything. My unwavering resolve made me stronger,